9 months out of law school, I'm a millionaire. People ask me, how did you do it?
Wow.
And it ties into the secrets of sales, right? It ties in because I tell people, in your time frame, I work 9 months. In mine, I work 10 years. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, because I look at life through a lens of productivity and accessibility. How much value, shifting the paradigm of value, how much value am I providing? And how am I accessing the help that I need, as well as being accessible to others to give help? Very simple lens of value. And because I believe people buy on emotion for logical reasons. And if you can have the emotional attachment and value, so if I sold you something and guaranteed, whatever it would cost, that you would make double by the end of the year, you would do it. Everyone would do it. It's all about value. So I literally looked at time that way and said, how productive and accessible am I? So I work 6 days a week, 16 hours a day, twice as much time. I focused in on efficiency. So that was 32 hours of productivity if I was twice as efficient. Then I looked at statistical success of what I was doing. If I could be more statistically successful, not just because I was a young sales guy. So if I have 10 leads, people think that you're more successful if you sell 4 and I sell 2. I disagree. If I have 10 leads and I can make more of those 10 leads available to me, I can be a worse of a sales rep. Because usually what happens is somebody that can close 4 out of 10 with that skill set only has 6 people available to them. They're wasting all their time on the 4, trying to get on the phone, trying to get the meeting, trying to get all this. So I focused on availability because it was more productive. So if I could get all 10 available, I could be a way worse sales rep and close 5 out of 10. Right? At 50% instead of at 80%. So I really focused in on that. So I work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. My perspective though, just so you know, mindset, I told God, I'm graduating law school with no job, law loans, in a recession. Before I got offered those jobs, I said, God, if you can give me enough money to buy my mom a house, buy my mom a car, and pay off my law loans, I will shovel shit with my hands 6 days a week, 12 hours a day with gratitude. That's where my mindset was. So when I got a real job, a 6-figure job with opportunities to make 7 figures, there was no stopping me in productivity, accessibility. Do the math. If I have 64 hours of productivity a day, right? The 16 times 2 times 2 is 64 hours of productivity a day, times 7 days a week.
Hold on, where do you get the 64?
So most people work 8 hours of productivity. I work twice as many hours, so that's 16. I'm twice as efficient, that's 32 hours of productivity. And then twice as statistically successful, I would have 64 hours of productivity a day.
And the twice as statistically successful,
was dealt to the availability.
Lead scoring?
Lead scoring,
like
closing.
Focusing on the money.
Closing or the amount of sales.
Possible.
Being very, very focused on the money. I believe profit comes first, not passion and purpose. I think people are fooling themselves when they're like, I want to do what I love. I'm like, bullshit. Learn to love what you do. People say,
become an expert at what you do.
Love
and you'll love it.
Pursue it. And I did it with productivity and accessibility.
Full dedication.
And so in 9 months, I believe I had 10, the average sales guy was married with kids, wasn't motivated and inspired like I was, wasn't pursuing what I was pursuing. So in that 9-month period, I produced 10 years of what the average person would produce.
I love that.
Therefore, I had $1 million. Right, which is, basically $100,000 a year for an average person. But I was able to do it through time, effort, productivity, accessibility. I'm a student of my calendar, which means I study my calendar with the lens of productivity and accessibility. I study sleep. So
smart.
Because my subconscious,
1/4 of your life,
or 1/3 for some people, not me, 1/5 for me, but literally, because I study sleep, I'm more productive and accessible in the subconscious and unconscious than anyone I know, because I think those 6 hours or 5 hours I sleep is more important than going to 6 hours of meetings. Like for my literally productivity and accessibility. I also study the white space of my calendar. So more people forget their most important calls and meetings during the day because they just look at their calendar. And I've done it. I'm an expert at this stuff. I've forgotten meetings. I've forgotten important calls. Ones that I've waited 3 weeks for. I'm like, how'd the day go by? I forgot to call. Because I started studying my calendar. The other secret is do it now. Think about productivity and accessibility. If you learn to ask yourself one question, hey, can I do this now? And you do it, you save at minimum twice as much time, and you're statistically way more successful than if you put it somewhere else. Now, one other tool is, if I can't do it now, I have a do it now repository, either on my phone or in my Outlook. So in the white space of my calendar, when I don't have something planned,
Yep.
I go check my Do It Now folder, prioritize it by
gotta be
importance, and I knock them off one at a time.
Just fast. Like
Most people don't get 5 things done in a
Do you
day.
try to avoid the like time, like, oh, I got that on my to-do list. I
Oh,
don't want to do
I-
that.
I-
How do you attack that?
I cut I'm right-handed,
Yeah.
I cut my right hand's fingernails first.
Okay.
I do the tougher things first.
You just
I
whatever's
made
the
it a habit.
hardest and the most important, move it up to the top and don't
Get it
complain,
over
don't
with.
bitch.
Yeah, love it.
Just get
Learn
it
to
done.
love it, absolutely. And then if you do it now as well and you use that prioritization, you actually will get more done. Most people don't get 5 things done in a day that they want because they lack focus. The reason they lack focus is they think fear is a motivator,
Yep.
and they use fear to focus them. Fear doesn't focus you because if you're afraid and that you use that as focus, you're easily distracted.
Makes sense.
I also have a 5:20 rule, which says this: all my phone calls, the objectives are to keep to 5 minutes. All my meetings and interviews, I have an objective to keep at 20. Why? Bob Proctor, my mentor,
Okay.
right? Which is a huge mentor. I tell
Yeah.
people ask for help. I still have mentors.
You keep your interviews like this, 20 minutes max.
Yeah, I have exceptions to everything,
Right.
Right? But so Gary, for example, with his exposure, if he wants to do 40 minutes, of course, Rogan, I'd do that in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But because I want to be accessible to everyone,
You have to.
I do the 20 minutes, and I'm very concise about what I talk about because any phone conversation we have, after 5 minutes, we're just visiting. There's nothing productive and accessible.
That makes sense.
We're just
Especially
visiting.
business and like in sales with sales teams and shit. Like you got to get to the point and get to it right.
What about the companies, big companies that have meetings to have meetings? Okay, let's have a meeting to talk about what we're going to have in that meeting.
Terrible.
That has to be the
I
least
used to do that at
the big, right?
Big
No
companies.
names, right? Yeah. I did too. That's where I grew up in, right? In Thomson Reuters and West
Yeah.
Publishing and
Yeah.
meetings to have
I
meetings.
sold for IBM and Google, and I totally get the meeting of the meeting for the event.
Yeah, and all you
like,
do is create
damn.
resistance, voids, and shortages to the actual point, which is productivity, value,
Yep.
and accessibility. How accessible am I to others, and how am I accessing what I want?